Today, shots fired during Washington's glitziest night.
The sound of their gunfire heard in the room where Donald Trump was attending a gala dinner. The president rushed off the stage, armed agents replacing him, their guns poised and ready.
From the ballroom panic to the White House's response, what does this attack reveal about politics, security, and a presidency facing gunfire once again? I'm Kevin Hirten, and this is The Take. Hi. So before we continue with today's show, remember to leave us a comment telling us what you think about this episode. We do read them, and it helps us make better shows in the future. What do you think about this shooting? Do you have any theories about the gunman's motive? And remember, if you're on your favorite podcast app, it always helps to leave us a 5-star rating. That does help the show.
This was my, I believe, my 11th White House Correspondents Dinner. I don't think I'll ever forget this one. It's pretty hard to forget when you're in the middle of a shooting. So there have been a lot of memorable ones. This is the biggest night of the year for Washington, D.C., and I don't think any other journalists in that room will ever forget that as well. It was quite a night. My name is Chris Sheridan. I am the senior White House producer for Al Jazeera English, and I am in Washington, D.C. at the moment.
So Chris, we'll set the scene here. It's the White House Correspondents Dinner. The elite of Washington media are decked out in black tie, ball gowns. You're there with them, another member of the elite media. When 5 minutes into the salad course, gunshots ring out, all hell breaks loose. Pick up the story from there.
Yeah, that's exactly what had happened. They just introduced the president, the first lady, the White House staff, and the White House Correspondents Association. They all sit at the head table in a massive ballroom. It holds at least 2,000 people. And I was near the back of the room where one of the exits are, right in the middle of the room, basically. And as you said, we were socializing. We were all sitting down for the salad course. And suddenly I heard 5 booms. And initially, because I'm not used to this, I didn't know what it was because you hear noises all the time, but they were so loud. And people around me immediately dove for the floor, which I also did because, someone said it was gunshots. And so I was on the floor with most of the guests. It was very scary. There were people whimpering, crying, concerned. And we were down there for maybe 10 minutes as security locked the room down, essentially. And as you know, the president was immediately whisked away. And then suddenly I saw that some of the cabinet secretaries going out of the room, like Pete Hegseth, the U.S. Defense Secretary. And I saw Scott Bessent being whisked out with his security, armed security. He's the Treasury Secretary. And so we were puzzled as to what was going on because this is a building that should be locked down anyway because the president of the United States and a lot of really high-ranking people are in the room.
Right.
So it was shocking, hard to believe that there was a gun that close to the room. And, after a little bit, everyone started to get up when it appeared the situation had kind of resolved itself.
So you really don't know what's going on. You hear that there's gunshots. You could probably see that people are panicking all over, also on the dais. You then find out what actually did happen in the lobby. We've seen this video. Can you describe what you didn't know at the time, but what you now know based on your reporting?
Right. Well, we knew that it was gunshots because we could smell the gunpowder.
Wow.
And then the security detail in the room had told us that there was somebody who had been shot, but we didn't know who it was. And it was clear that at that point, there had been a shooting. And of course, the president came out on True Social pretty quickly and confirmed it. Of course, a room full of journalists, Kevin, you can imagine, they were all on their phones, asking questions. And somebody came out at some point and said, we're going to continue the dinner, which of course didn't seem plausible at the time because, who wants to sit down and have dinner after something like that? Obviously, I didn't get dinner. And then about, 30 minutes later, I think they finally announced that, okay, we're not going to do this.
Okay, so just try to locate us. sorry, just try to locate us. So you're in the big ballroom, but the action with the gunman didn't happen in the ballroom. What actually happened? Where was it in relation to you? And how did he ever get close to the actual doors of where you were?
No, that's a great question because one thing people should understand is that it's an active working hotel. It's a very large hotel in Washington, D.C. So there are lots and lots of guests there. And the actual ballroom is down a couple levels on the lower level, down below the hotel. So there's lots of people going in and out. So it would have been very easy for someone to come into the hotel if they had a ticket. Or if they were a guest of the hotel, to come inside the hotel, and then to get down to the lower level, all you needed was a ticket for the dinner. Now, I don't know what the situation was with this alleged gunman, but he somehow got down to the lower level just outside the ballroom where the main event was taking. Now, around the ballroom, there, of course, was airport level security. And then there were military, Secret Service, so that part of the hotel was very secure. And as we've seen from the video, it appears the alleged gunman actually ran through the security, and that's when the shots were fired. So it doesn't look like he actually got through with a gun, which would have been highly unusual. Anytime a president, as you know, Kevin, is in any building anywhere, the police and security presence is extremely high. So yeah, we were locked down for a little bit in the room, the ballroom, but the shots echoed from right outside it. So it was right outside the room. Now the president wasn't anywhere near the shots. He was on the other side of the ballroom at the head table. So but still, I mean, to even get that close is surprising.
Now, the gunman was heavily armed, they say, but it wasn't his shots that you heard. Were you hearing shots from the security that were firing at him?
Yeah, I believe it was the security. I would assume Secret Service, although I can't confirm that just yet. But there were shots fired definitely outside the room. And as we know now, he had a shotgun, a handgun, and or the police are reporting that he had a shotgun, a handgun, and some knives. But again, it was over very quickly. It was five booms, and then it was done essentially.
And for those of us who've worked in Washington, this event, it always happens at this same hotel, but it has like a notorious sort of unofficial nickname because it's named after a guy who tried to kill a previous president. Can you tell us about that?
Right. That's right. Well, as you know, Ronald Reagan in the 1980s was coming out of that hotel and was shot there, and as well as his press secretary as well. So there has been a notorious assassination attempt there, which was, it's ironic.
Yeah, it is.
And it's, so, and you're talking about the Hinckley Hotel, is that right?
The Hinckley Hilton.
The nickname.
Yeah.
The Hinckley Hilton, exactly.
John Hinckley was the guy who shot Reagan.
Who was the shooter. Yeah, exactly. So you're absolutely right.
Okay, so Chris, the gunman is identified as Cole Thomas Allen. He's a 31-year-old high school teacher from Torrance, California. And just as we're sitting down, Attorney General Todd Blanche is giving us some new information about him. What do we know at this point?
Yeah, it appears, according to some of the reporting, that he was a guest at the hotel. And they had traveled by train to get there. It looks like he was actually targeting, according to some of the reporting, president members of his team, which would suggest this was an assassination attempt.
Pictures of Allen being detained have been released, and agents are still searching his California home. Questions about a motive remain, but the president says Allen had written what he calls a manifesto.
So it's... he's supposed to be arraigned in court in the next 24 hours. It looks like he's going to face several charges, apparently, including weapons charges.
Okay. So, Chris, you've covered the White House for Al Jazeera for many, many years now. I mean, even before I started in D.C., that was back in 2015. So you know this world. But for our international audience, can you talk a little bit more about this event, the White House Correspondents Dinner? It's one of these weird Washington traditions that everyone seems to hate, but also can't seem to quit.
Yeah, so this is probably the biggest night in Washington every year. It's the White House Correspondents Association Dinner, or White House Correspondents Dinner. And It's run by the board of the White House Correspondents Association, which oversees all the journalists like myself who cover the White House on a daily basis. It is a highlight every year on Washington, D.C.'s calendar, a gathering, if you will, of the elites in Washington, D.C. It's obviously hated for many reasons. Was hated by Trump. Trump was famously mocked by Obama at it many years ago. And this was actually not his first time back, but it was his first time as president at the dinner. So that alone was controversial, and people were obviously very upset that the press was honoring a man who has been who has vilified the press in such a way that he has, as many people understand. So it's a controversial dinner for many, many, many reasons. And a lot of people boycotted the dinner, didn't want to go. But that has happened before with other dinners. So, leading up to this, there was a lot of discussion. There was a letter signed by 200 journalists saying that, the Correspondents Association needed to stand up to the president essentially at this dinner and make a statement. But obviously that didn't happen because of what transpired.
And he was
yeah,
planning,
it's a very controversial event.
And apparently he had been planning some sort of scorched earth speech against the press. So he was going to berate all the members.
Well, does that
audience.
surprise you, Kevin? Does that surprise you?
No, of course not. But then, because usually there's a comedian at these things where the comedian roasts the president, but famously thin-skinned, he booked a magician instead.
Yeah, mentalist, mentalist, magician,
mentalist.
Mentalist, which was an odd choice, but obviously somebody who was not going to make waves, because the comedians, obviously, it's a roast to a certain extent. The comedians often make fun of the president, and most presidents take it to heart because they're allowed to do the same thing. They get up there too, and they make jokes about the press, and some of the jokes are really funny and very true. But President Trump, I think we know, is not a fan of being made fun of, and so I'm not sure what this guest was going to say at this event. They're supposed to reveal some surprising things about the press. I don't even know what that means. I have no idea what he was about to say. But I spoke to a lot of White House staffers before the night and during the night, and they said he had some zingers ready to go for the press, and that he was probably going to talk for a long time, which again wouldn't surprise anyone.
Wow, but we will theoretically be able to see that speech, right? Because it hasn't been canceled.
No, it hasn't been canceled. It's been postponed. Exactly. So they're saying 30 days, but that's just, to me, just kind of a random timeline, because to organize these things takes a lot of time and effort and money. And so, but it is, given what's happened, I'm assuming that the Washington Hilton will work with the Correspondents Association and with the White House to try to reschedule it. As I say, 30 days seems optimistic, but and at this point, I think it's important that perhaps the press and the White House do reorganize it to make a statement, and I think people probably will feel a lot more excited to go, just to show that this is something that's not going to deter anyone in the press or in the presidency.
Yeah. So after the event, which was really harrowing, I mean, you saw, because there were so many reporters there, we got to really see the fear on everybody's faces. We got a lot of coverage of the event. So truly harrowing, and an amazing job by law enforcement to stop this guy. But after the event, Donald Trump heads back to the White House, still in his tuxedo, and he's very much in the mood to talk. And then he holds this impromptu press conference. What did he say during that press conference?
Well, that press conference was unusual because, in many ways, because it lacked the normal antagonism that the briefings have when the president talks to the press. You saw the Correspondents Association president, Weijia Jiang, from CBS News, sitting in the front row, still in her dress, and he praised her a number of times. It's not something he likes to do. He's called her names before. So in a weird way, it brought everyone together for just a very brief moment.
In light of this evening's events, I ask that all Americans recommit with their hearts in resolving our difference peacefully. We have to resolve our differences. I will say, you had Republicans, Democrats, independents, conservatives, liberals, and progressives. Those words are interchangeable, perhaps, but maybe they're not. But yet everybody in that room, big crowd, record-setting crowd. There was a record-setting group of people, and there was a tremendous amount of love and coming together.
He's no stranger to this kind of thing. He's very clearly, there's a lot of people who dislike him, and he's had, a few assassination attempts on him. And, this man likes to promote. And it was a moment of promotion for him. And of course, he started to talk about the massive ballroom that he's building on the east side of the White House right now. And, he saw this as a moment for him to promote the fact that it would have been safer if we had it in my new ballroom, which is obviously still being built. Might seem strange to a lot of people, but that's what he does. He's done this before in many other difficult situations. And, it does raise some eyebrows, but again, that's who he is.
Well, him promoting the White House ballroom right after this assassination attempt, or this gunman being brought down, has not really helped stem the rising tide of online chatter that his first assassination attempt, the one in Butler, PA, that one was staged. I know that this is a popular topic of conversation with these conspiracy videos being pushed by people on both the right and the left. Has the White House even really directly responded to these allegations that one was staged, and now people are now saying this one was staged? Do they see that this whole thing could pour gasoline on that sort of conspiracy fire?
Well, certainly that. Like you, have been on social media and seeing plenty of people saying that, and it won't die down, especially since this alleged gunman was, had no real criminal history, seemed to be a bit of a loner, didn't have much of a social media history, from my understanding, from what I've seen. So, very similar to the Butler gunman, who was, relatively unknown. Didn't have a lot of history of hating Trump. So that's obviously going to fuel a lot of conspiracies online. I think there will be questions about this. There have been a lot of questions about why, for instance, the gunshots came from security and not from this gentleman, this alleged gunman. And he doesn't appear to be injured at all, given that he wasn't that far away from them. I know that he reportedly hit someone in a bulletproof vest. But again, this is not unusual in Washington, D.C. when things like this happen. We're obviously going to get to know more over the next couple of days. And, I think this is what journalists do, even in this situation, is we try not to speculate or come up with theories. We leave that to the people online and just try to stick to the facts as to what happened. I know it sounds like a big cliche, but it's true. This is one of the most difficult things about covering the Trump presidency, is just not letting all the noise get in the way and just trying to see what actually is happening and what's as I say, sticking to the facts.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And this is it's never a dull moment. And this is just another crazy thing that happens, and there will be more. But maybe we can end by kind of stepping back a little bit and not at what you're seeing at this moment, about a year and a half into his presidency. President Trump is historically unpopular. I'm not sure if people outside of the United States know this. The war in Iran, the tariffs, the harsh tactics by ICE officers, they've all sort of combined to put him in this very rarefied air for a president at this stage of a presidency. Low 30s approval ratings in some polls. I know that Republicans are freaking out because the midterms are coming. But is it just me, or does Donald Trump seem kind of unfazed by it? Do you think the White House is putting on a brave face, or do they just not care? You're there day in and day out. What do you think is going on?
They care. He pretends like he doesn't care, but he does care. That's the same reason why he, the irony of him mocking the press all the time is he still wants us there covering him. They definitely care. And that's why sometimes his behavior can be erratic. He makes decisions, on the fly almost at times, because I think he is reacting to what he's seeing. Gas prices or petrol prices here in the United States are way up. He knows that, and he knows if that continues into the summer, he's going to have trouble in the midterms. And we've seen, already a lot of pushback from Republicans, members of his own party, on this issue. So I think that, there is a side of him. You're absolutely right. Sean Spicer famously said that he does not give an F, and he works very closely with him. And that's absolutely true. But, he still talks about, I think one of the whole things that drives his fake news narrative is that he really despises the fact they really don't say things that he wants them to say. And I think so that's an indication that he does care, at the end of the day. So as I say, as you were saying, I mean, there are a lot of reasons. Americans are really unhappy right now with the job he's doing. I mean, there's no way around it. There's no other way to say it. So he's obviously got to figure out a way to kind of get those poll numbers up, because as you say, he may lose Congress in the fall, and that could be very bad for him moving forward.
Okay. Chris Sheridan, let's leave it there. Thanks for coming on The Take and telling us about your experience at this shooting.
Thank you.